What if I told you that every word you speak is literally programming your cells to either heal or destroy themselves? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning and discover that your body has been listening to every single word you've ever spoken about yourself, and it's been following those instructions with the precision of a master craftsman. The chronic pain you've been experiencing? Your cells heard you say, "This is killing me," and took it as a direct order. That persistent fatigue? Your nervous system received the command when you repeatedly declared, "I'm exhausted," and began systematically reducing your energy output. This isn't some New Age fantasy or wishful thinking. This is the revolutionary discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about healing, made by the remarkable spiritual teacher Emmet Fox, who uncovered one of the most profound secrets hidden within the human experience. Has this ever happened to you? You visit doctor after doctor, try treatment after treatment, yet somehow your body seems to resist every attempt at healing? What if the reason isn't what you think? Fox discovered something that would shake the very foundations of how we understand the relationship between mind and body. Through years of careful observation and study, he realized that the human body doesn't actually obey medications, supplements, or even medical procedures in the way we've been taught. Instead, your body responds to something far more fundamental and powerful: the words you speak, particularly the words you speak about yourself. Think about it for a moment. Every single cell in your body possesses a form of intelligence, a primitive but absolutely perfect consciousness that doesn't question, doesn't analyze, doesn't doubt. Your cells simply listen and obey. When you declare, "I'm sick and tired," your cellular army receives this as a command from their supreme commander, you. They immediately begin the biochemical processes necessary to manifest exactly what you've ordered: sickness and fatigue. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you more than you can imagine. Fox encountered a merchant named Johann Wise in Basel, a man whom every doctor had given up on. The medical establishment had labeled his condition as terminal cancer, but Fox saw something entirely different. He recognized that Johann wasn't dying from cancer. He was dying from years of verbal self-assault, decades of speaking curses over his own body. This merchant had unknowingly become his own worst enemy, programming his cells day after day with declarations of doom. "I'm a cursed man," he would say. "My body is betraying me. I'm rotting away more each day." And his faithful cellular servants, with their perfect obedience, were simply fulfilling the orders they'd been given by the only authority they recognized, Johann himself. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn, and here's where your understanding of your own power is about to be revolutionized. Because if your words have the power to program disease, dysfunction, and decay into your cellular structure, then they also possess the incredible ability to command health, vitality, and regeneration. What Fox discovered next would not only save Johann's life, but would reveal a truth so powerful that it challenges everything we've been taught about healing, medicine, and the very nature of human potential. The secret lies in understanding that your body is not just a collection of organs and tissues. It's a living temple where every cell waits in sacred silence for the decree that will awaken its highest potential. Now, I want to go even deeper into this extraordinary discovery, because what Fox uncovered about cellular behavior will fundamentally shift how you view every conversation you have with yourself. Your body operates as the most faithful scribe of your soul, meticulously recording and executing every single word you pronounce, every thought you consciously feed, and every emotion you allow to flow through your system. This isn't metaphorical. This is biochemical reality. When Johann finally understood this truth, his entire transformation began with a simple but profound realization. His cells had been taking dictation from him for years, writing his physical reality according to the script he provided through his internal dialogue. The merchant's body wasn't betraying him. It was serving him with absolute loyalty, manifesting exactly what he'd been requesting through his verbal declarations. Here's what makes this revelation so powerful and so hidden from mainstream understanding. Each of your 70 trillion cells possesses what Fox described as primitive, but absolutely perfect intelligence. These cellular soldiers don't possess the capacity to reason, analyze, or judge the commands they receive. They simply execute orders with military precision, never questioning whether those instructions come from a loving general who wants their well-being, or from an unconscious enemy who speaks destruction over their temple. Your liver doesn't understand sarcasm when you declare, "This situation is eating me alive." Your heart can't distinguish between literal and figurative language when you say, "This is breaking my heart." Your immune system doesn't recognize hyperbole when you claim, "I'm sick of this job." To your cellular intelligence, every word carries the same weight of authority because it comes from the only source they recognize as their supreme commander, you. This creates an incredible responsibility and an even more incredible opportunity. Johann's transformation didn't happen because Fox gave him magical pills or performed mystical procedures. It happened because he learned to become conscious of the constant stream of orders he was giving his cellular army. Instead of cursing his temple, he began speaking life, health, and regeneration into every organ, every system, every function of his physical being. The merchant discovered that his cells had been waiting in sacred silence for decades, hoping their commander would finally issue orders worthy of their perfect obedience. When he shifted from unconscious destruction to conscious creation through his words, his body responded with enthusiasm that amazed every doctor who had previously written him off as terminal. Think about the conversations you've been having with yourself lately. Consider the decisions you make about your own health, vitality, and potential every time you speak about your body. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, your cellular intelligence is recording every declaration, every complaint, every judgment, transforming your words into the biochemical reality you experience as your physical health. This hidden truth about cellular obedience represents one of the most practical yet profound revelations about human potential. Your journey toward optimal health doesn't require expensive treatments or complicated protocols. It requires mastering the art of speaking life into your own temple. The impact of this understanding ripples through every aspect of your existence, from physical vitality to emotional resilience to spiritual awakening. Write in the comments, "My cells are listening," if this revelation is starting to make sense to you. Now, what happened next in Fox's journey reveals the mechanics behind this cellular communication in ways that will completely change your perspective on the power of consciousness. During one of his most profound alchemical experiments, something extraordinary occurred that unveiled the hidden architecture of human transformation. As Fox worked in his laboratory, his awareness suddenly expanded far beyond the physical confines of his workspace, and for the first time, he could actually see the invisible connections that govern our reality. Picture this moment of revelation. Fox witnessed luminous lines of light streaming between every thought and every cell in the human body. These weren't abstract concepts or philosophical ideas. They were visible, measurable connections that demonstrated how consciousness directly interfaces with matter. Each word spoken with intention created specific geometric patterns in what he called the auric field. Patterns that then crystallized into physical tissue and biochemical processes. This discovery shattered every assumption about the separation between mind and body. Fox realized that behind the scenes of our everyday awareness, there's an intricate communication network where thoughts become light, light becomes pattern, and pattern becomes cellular instruction. The impact of this understanding meant that healing wasn't something that happened to you, it was something you actively participated in through the quality of your mental and verbal engagement with your own system. But Fox didn't stop at theoretical understanding. He developed what he called the sacred word breathing technique, a practical method that allows anyone to consciously reprogram their cellular memory. This wasn't complicated mysticism, it was precise, reproducible methodology that worked by accessing the same light pattern cell pathway he'd witnessed during his expanded awareness experience. The technique involves specific hand positions that create energetic circuits in your body. When you place one hand on your heart and another on your solar plexus, you're essentially completing a bioelectric loop that amplifies the impact of spoken words. Your heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, while your solar plexus serves as the distribution center for that energy. By connecting these two power centers through intentional touch while speaking healing declarations, you create what Fox called a reprogramming ritual. Johann learned this technique and discovered that his cells responded not just to his words, but to the energetic signature created when those words were spoken through this specific breathing and positioning protocol. The merchant found that his decades of unconscious negative programming could be overwritten in a matter of weeks when he consistently applied this method. His body began receiving clear, loving, life-affirming instructions instead of the confused, destructive messages it had been following for years. This represents a fundamental shift in how we approach personal transformation. Instead of hoping that external remedies will somehow override years of internal negative programming, you learn to become the conscious architect of your own cellular environment. The decisions you make about what to speak over your body become the blueprint that your faithful cellular intelligence follows with unwavering precision. The hidden truth is that every human being already possesses this capacity for conscious cellular communication. The revelations that Fox documented aren't reserved for special people or require years of training. They're available to anyone willing to take responsibility for the ongoing conversation they're having with their own body. Drop "I'm ready to reprogram" in the comments if you're starting to understand the practical power of this approach. What Fox discovered through Johann's practice reveals the precise methodology that transforms abstract concepts into measurable physical results. The sacred word breathing technique culminates in what Fox called the 7 breaths ritual, a systematic approach that treats your cellular army with the respect and authority it deserves. This isn't random repetition. It's strategic communication designed to reach every corner of your biological kingdom. Picture your body as containing 70 trillion individual soldiers, each one perfectly trained, absolutely loyal, and waiting for clear commands from their supreme commander. Johann learned to approach this vast army with the precision of a master general, delivering 7 specific orders through 7 conscious breaths, repeated 7 times. Each word wasn't spoken casually. It was delivered as a sacred command, carrying the full weight of intentional authority. The power behind this methodology lies in understanding that your cellular intelligence responds to consistency, clarity, and conviction. When Johann began practicing this technique daily, he wasn't just hoping for change, he was systematically reprogramming decades of destructive cellular instructions. His mindset shifted from victim of circumstances to conscious creator of his physical reality. Within the first week, something fundamental changed in Johann's energy field. Fox could observe that the merchant had stopped emanating what he called the frequency of death and began vibrating with life force. This wasn't wishful thinking or placebo effect. This was measurable transformation occurring at the energetic level, preparing the foundation for physical manifestation. By the 4th week, Johann's digestive system had completely transformed. His stomach, which had been receiving destruction orders for years, suddenly began retaining food without the violent rejection it had been programmed to execute. The impact rippled through every system as his cellular army adjusted to their new, life-affirming instructions. The revelation came at the 8-week mark, when medical professionals couldn't explain what their instruments were showing them. Johann's tumor had disappeared completely, but Fox understood this wasn't technically a healing. It was a correction. The merchant had simply learned to communicate with his body in the language it was designed to understand, the language of loving authority rather than unconscious assault. This represents a fundamental shift in how we approach personal transformation and physical well-being. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be miraculous recovery was simply a man who had discovered how to take conscious responsibility for the ongoing conversation between his mind and his cellular intelligence. The hidden truth is that Johann's cells had always possessed the capacity for perfect health. They had simply been following the destructive blueprint he'd been providing through years of negative self-talk. The journey from Sickness to vitality didn't require external intervention or complicated medical procedures. It required Johann to make different decisions about how he spoke to and about his own body. His transformation demonstrates that the gap between illness and wellness often exists not in our biology, but in our communication patterns with our own cellular intelligence. Fox documented that Johann's recovery wasn't just physical. The merchant developed an entirely new relationship with his body, treating it as the sacred temple it had always been, rather than the enemy he had imagined it to be. Write "sacred authority" in the comments if you're beginning to grasp the profound responsibility and power we all possess over our own physical experience. Now, Johann's transformation revealed something that Fox would later call the first law of Hermetic medicine, a principle so fundamental that it challenges everything we've been taught about the relationship between mind and matter. Your body, Fox discovered, is your most perfect creation, operating with such precise obedience that it manifests exactly what you order it to create. This isn't metaphysical theory. This is biological reality functioning with mathematical precision. Think about the profound responsibility this places on your shoulders. If you consistently order disease through your internal dialogue, your cellular intelligence will create disease with the same dedication and skill that it would create perfect health. Your body doesn't judge your commands as good or bad. It simply fulfills them with unwavering loyalty. The mindset you maintain about your physical experience becomes the blueprint your cells follow without question. This revelation led Fox to investigate an even more specific aspect of cellular obedience that would revolutionize his understanding of human physiology. He discovered that your blood functions as liquid ink, continuously writing your destiny at the cellular level. This insight came through his work with Duchess Philippine, a case that demonstrated how our words don't just influence our cells, they literally reprogram the very substance that carries life throughout our entire system. When the Duchess arrived at Fox's sanctuary, she was convinced that her blood had become poisoned, corrupted from within. But Fox recognized something the medical establishment had missed entirely. Philippine wasn't suffering from blood disease, she was suffering from blood programming. Every time she declared, "My blood is poisoned," or "I can feel it corrupting inside me," her bloodstream received these statements as direct chemical instructions. Behind the scenes of her conscious awareness, her blood was responding to her verbal commands with perfect obedience. When she repeatedly spoke about corruption and poison, her red blood cells began carrying exactly those toxic instructions to every organ in her body. Her circulatory system had become a delivery network for the destructive messages she was unconsciously broadcasting through her self-talk. The hidden truth Fox uncovered was that blood possesses memory. Every trauma, every declaration, every emotional decision gets encoded into the liquid matrix of your bloodstream and transmitted continuously throughout your system. The Duchess had unknowingly transformed her blood from a river of life into a carrier of destruction, simply through the quality of her spoken words about her own life force. This discovery reveals the incredible impact our internal conversations have on our physical reality. Your blood doesn't distinguish between conscious commands and unconscious complaints. It simply records and distributes whatever information you provide through your verbal and emotional patterns. The journey from illness to wellness often requires recognizing that you've been unconsciously programming your own life force with messages of limitation and decay. Fox realized that transformation at this level requires understanding that your blood is not just a biological fluid, it's a conscious medium that responds to the authority and intention behind your words. The decisions you make about how to speak about your own vitality directly influence the biochemical messages your blood carries to every cell, every organ, every system in your body. Put liquid programming in the comments if you're starting to see how deeply our words influence our physical reality. What Fox discovered about the true nature of blood completely transforms our understanding of how consciousness interfaces with biology. Your blood isn't simply a mechanical fluid transporting nutrients and oxygen. It's a conscious river that carries the soul's decrees to every single cell in your body. Each drop functions as an intelligent messenger, whispering the orders you've given through your thoughts, words, and emotional decisions directly to your organs. This revelation means that your circulatory system operates as a 24-hour communication network, constantly delivering updates about your mental and spiritual state to every corner of your physical temple. When the Duchess Philippine finally grasped this truth, her entire transformation began with understanding that her blood had been faithfully serving her, not betraying her. Her bloodstream had simply been carrying out the toxic instructions she'd been providing through years of negative self-programming. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, this liquid intelligence is recording every declaration you make about your health, your vitality, your worthiness to experience well-being. The impact of this understanding is staggering because it means you're constantly participating in the creation of your physical reality through the quality of communication you maintain with your own blood. Fox's research led him to uncover something even more profound about this conscious blood river. In the ancient Hermetic traditions, blood possesses what he called a sacred name, a vibrational key that, when spoken with proper knowledge and authority, awakens the divine nature of this life-giving element. This secret name is Jaima Soe, which translates to blood of life, but it's not merely about pronunciation. It's about understanding that your blood is the sacred connector between your soul and your cellular intelligence. When Philippine learned to address her blood by its sacred name, something extraordinary happened. Instead of cursing her life force, she began speaking to it with the reverence and authority it deserved. She discovered that her blood wasn't her enemy, it was her most loyal ally, waiting patiently for clear, loving instructions to replace the confused, destructive messages it had been carrying for years. This represents a complete mindset shift from victim consciousness to creator consciousness. Your journey toward optimal health isn't about fighting against your body or trying to override its natural processes. It's about learning to communicate consciously with the intelligent systems that are already working perfectly to manifest whatever reality you consistently program through your internal dialogue. The hidden truth is that every tradition throughout history has recognized blood as sacred, not because of superstition, but because they understood its role as the conscious medium through which spirit animates matter. When you speak the sacred name Jaima So with genuine understanding, you're not performing empty ritual. You're acknowledging the divine intelligence that flows through every drop of your life force. Fox documented that when people learn to honor their blood as a conscious entity rather than treating it as mere biological machinery, profound transformation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The decisions you make about how to address your own life force determine whether your blood carries messages of healing or destruction throughout your entire system. Write Jaima So in the comments if you're ready to begin speaking to your blood with the sacred authority it recognizes and responds to. Now, the practical application of this sacred blood communication requires what Fox developed as the blood consecration ritual, a 21-day practice that completely transforms the informational content your bloodstream carries throughout your body. This isn't abstract visualization. It's a systematic reprogramming technique that works by consciously directing your blood to carry life-affirming messages instead of the destructive programming most people unconsciously maintain. Philippine learned to visualize her blood as golden light, flowing through every vessel, every capillary, every cell of her body while pronouncing specific words of power that literally rewrote the chemical instructions her bloodstream had been carrying. For 21 consecutive days, she dedicated time each morning to consciously programming her liquid intelligence with declarations of health, vitality, and divine perfection, rather than the poison and corruption she had been unconsciously ordering for years. The transformation wasn't just physical. It was a complete shift in how she related to her own life force. Instead of viewing her blood as something that could betray her, she recognized it as her most faithful servant, waiting for clear instructions about what reality to create. Her mindset evolved from fear-based victim consciousness to empowered creator consciousness, understanding that she was the supreme authority over her own biological experience. But Fox's investigations revealed an even deeper layer of how consciousness creates physical reality. Through careful observation of hundreds of cases, he discovered that unexpressed emotions become the only poisons the soul distills by itself. Every emotion you suppress, deny, or refuse to acknowledge converts into what he called mortal chemicals that your body obediently creates and stores in your tissues. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, your emotional suppression triggers specific biochemical cascades that your cellular intelligence interprets as direct orders. When you swallow anger instead of expressing it healthily, your body creates and accumulates the literal chemical compounds of rage in your liver and digestive system. When you deny sadness, your lungs and kidneys begin storing the toxic byproducts of unexpressed grief. This revelation explains why so many people develop mysterious illnesses that seem to have no clear external cause. The hidden truth is that their bodies are manufacturing the exact poisons that correspond to their emotional suppression patterns. The impact of this understanding is profound because it means that healing often requires not just changing your verbal programming, but also clearing the toxic emotional residue that has been chemically encoded in your tissues. Fox documented case after case of people whose physical ailments disappeared when they learned to consciously release the suppressed emotions that had been poisoning their systems for years. The journey from illness to wellness frequently involves recognizing that your body has been faithfully producing the chemicals that match your emotional suppression decisions and then giving it new instructions about what to create instead. Your transformation depends on understanding that emotions aren't just psychological experiences. They're chemical realities that your body manifests with perfect precision based on how you choose to process and express your inner life. Type emotional chemistry in the comments if you're beginning to understand how deeply our unexpressed feelings influence our physical health. The devastating impact of emotional suppression becomes crystal clear through Fox's work with Catalina de Mendoza, a Spanish noblewoman whose mysterious illness baffled every physician in the royal court. When she arrived at Fox's sanctuary, her body displayed symptoms that seemed to defy medical logic. Ulcers that appeared and disappeared without pattern, skin that turned yellow for days at a time, and a general deterioration that no treatment could address. Behind the scenes of her dignified public persona, Fox discovered the real culprit. For 15 years, Catalina had harbored an intense rage toward her sister, who had seduced her fiancé the night before her wedding. Instead of expressing this betrayal and fury, she had swallowed it daily, maintaining the perfect composure expected of a noble lady, while her body dutifully created and stored the chemical compounds that corresponded to her suppressed emotional reality. The hidden truth Fox uncovered was that Catalina's body had been manufacturing poison for over a decade, not because of external toxins or genetic predisposition, but because her cellular intelligence was faithfully following the biochemical instructions generated by her emotional suppression decisions. Her liver had been processing literal anger chemicals. Her digestive system had been creating the compounds of humiliation and betrayal. Her skin had been manifesting the toxicity of unexpressed rage. This case revealed what Fox called the emotional alchemy law, a principle that transforms our understanding of the mind-body connection. Every emotion you experience is a real substance that your body produces through specific biochemical pathways. When you suppress anger, your body doesn't just forget about it. It literally creates anger chemicals and stores them in your tissues until you give conscious instructions for their release. Your journey toward optimal health requires recognizing that emotional suppression isn't just psychologically unhealthy, it's biochemically toxic. The decisions you make about whether to express, process, or bury your emotions directly influence the chemical environment your cells must function within. The mindset shift needed is understanding that your body treats suppressed emotions as manufacturing orders for specific toxins. Catalina's transformation began when she finally understood that her mysterious illness wasn't mysterious at all. It was her body's perfect response to 15 years of toxic chemical production. Her cellular intelligence had been creating exactly what her emotional suppression patterns requested, storing these poisons in her tissues because she had never given clear instructions for their release. The revelation that changed everything was recognizing that if her body could manufacture disease through emotional suppression, it could just as easily create health through conscious emotional processing. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond individual healing. It reveals how trauma, unexpressed grief, suppressed anger, and denied fear literally become the chemical foundation for chronic illness patterns. Fox documented that when Catalina learned to consciously release the accumulated emotional toxins while giving her body new instructions about what chemicals to create, her transformation was so complete that she appeared to have aged backwards, radiating a vitality that amazed everyone who had known her during her years of suppression. Share emotional detox in the comments if you're starting to recognize how your own suppressed emotions might be creating chemical toxicity in your body. Now, the practical solution Fox developed for Catalina represents one of his most powerful discoveries about conscious healing. He created what he called the poison transmutation technique, a systematic 5-step method that allows anyone to transform years of accumulated emotional toxicity into life-affirming chemistry. This wasn't theoretical healing. It was precise biochemical reprogramming that worked by giving the body clear instructions about what to create, instead of the poisons it had been manufacturing. Catalina's transformation began with recognition, where she had to identify and name each specific emotion she had suppressed rather than using vague terms like upset or hurt. She learned to be surgically precise. I feel burning rage toward my sister for betraying me. I feel humiliation for being publicly ridiculed. I feel guilt for wishing her harm. This specificity was crucial because her cellular intelligence needed exact information about which toxic chemicals to stop producing. The second phase involved giving conscious permission to her body to release the stored poisons, placing her hands on affected organs and declaring, "Body, faithful servant, I order you to release all the toxins you've stored by obedience. I no longer need these chemicals of pain." The third step required physical expression of each suppressed emotion until her system felt complete release, screaming her anger until her throat felt clean, crying her sadness until no tears remained. But the real transformation happened in the fourth phase, where Catalina gave specific orders for creating new chemicals. Instead of manufacturing rage compounds, she instructed her body to create compassion chemistry. Instead of producing humiliation toxins, she ordered forgiveness molecules. Her mindset shifted from unconscious poison production to conscious medicine creation, understanding that her body would manufacture whatever emotional chemistry she consistently requested. Behind the scenes of this emotional alchemy, Fox discovered something even more profound about how healing actually works. Every organ in your body follows perfect geometric patterns that reflect the universe's sacred laws. When these patterns become distorted through trauma, suppression, or negative programming, disease appears as the physical manifestation of broken geometry. When the patterns are restored to their original perfection, what appears to be miraculous healing is simply the natural result of corrected sacred architecture. The hidden truth is that your body isn't just a biological machine. It's a living temple constructed according to divine mathematical principles. Your heart beats in spiral patterns that mirror galaxies. Your lungs expand in octagonal formations that reflect flower petals. Your liver pulses in hexagonal rhythms that echo crystal structures. The impact of understanding this sacred geometry is that healing becomes a matter of restoring the perfect patterns rather than fighting against disease. Catalina's complete recovery occurred when she learned to visualize and restore the geometric perfection of each organ while performing her emotional detoxification. Her journey from mysterious illness to radiant health demonstrated that transformation happens when we address both the emotional toxicity and the geometric distortions that trauma creates in our sacred architecture. Drop sacred patterns. In the comments, if you're beginning to see how your body operates according to divine geometric principles that can be consciously restored. The profound implications of this geometric understanding became dramatically clear through Fox's work with Friedrich Weber, a young merchant whose progressive paralysis was slowly ascending from his legs toward his heart. Medical professionals had pronounced his condition hopeless, but Fox could immediately see what they had missed. Friedrich's paralysis wasn't caused by physical damage. It was the result of completely fragmented geometric patterns in his life force, shattered by the emotional shock he experienced when his father disinherited him for refusing to follow the family business. The hidden truth Fox discovered was that trauma doesn't just create emotional wounds. It literally breaks the sacred geometric architecture that governs how life force flows through your body. Friedrich's shock had created what Fox described as an invisible storm that had torn apart the perfect spirals, circles, and sacred proportions that should have been flowing from his spine throughout his entire system. His body was simply manifesting the geometric chaos that had replaced the divine order. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be a neurological condition was actually a spiritual architecture problem. Friedrich's cellular intelligence was trying to operate according to broken blueprints, fragmented patterns that no longer supported healthy function. The impact of this understanding revolutionized Fox's approach to healing because it revealed that restoration required rebuilding the geometric foundation, not just addressing symptoms. Fox developed what he called the geometric restoration method, a practice where Friedrich learned to consciously trace perfect geometric patterns over his body while pronouncing specific words of power. This wasn't symbolic gesture. It was precise reconstruction of the sacred architecture that trauma had destroyed. Friedrich would visualize his spine as a golden ladder connecting earth to heaven, then trace perfect spirals with his hands while declaring, "I restore the perfect geometry of my sacred temple." Every cell vibrates according to divine patterns. The transformation happened in stages that demonstrated the power of conscious geometric reconstruction. Within 7 days, Friedrich felt the first tinglings in his paralyzed legs as the life force patterns began reorganizing according to the perfect blueprints he was tracing. By the 14th day, he could move his toes. By the 21st day, he stood upright for the first time in 6 months. By the 40th day, he was walking normally through the streets, but more importantly, he had developed the ability to perceive geometric distortions in others. Your journey toward optimal health requires understanding that your body operates according to sacred mathematical principles that can be consciously restored when they become distorted. The decisions you make about whether to address geometric fragmentation determine whether your life force can flow according to its divine design or remains trapped in the chaos created by unresolved trauma. Friedrich's case revealed that healing often requires becoming your own sacred architect, consciously rebuilding the geometric perfection that governs every system in your body. The mindset shift involves recognizing that you're not just healing symptoms, you're restoring the divine mathematical foundation that allows your cellular intelligence to function according to its highest potential. Write "Divine Architect" in the comments if you're ready to take responsibility for rebuilding the sacred geometry of your own temple. Now, Friedrich's geometric restoration revealed something even more extraordinary about the body's sacred architecture that would revolutionize Fox's understanding of the human energy system. As Friedrich's divine patterns were restored, Fox observed that his heart began functioning not merely as a blood pump, but as what he recognized to be the sacred altar where the soul celebrates the mass of life itself. This wasn't poetic metaphor. It was measurable electromagnetic reality. Fox discovered that the human heart generates electromagnetic fields 5,000 times more intense than the brain, making it the most powerful energetic center in your entire body. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every decision you make gets processed first through this sacred altar, before manifesting in your physical reality. The heart operates as the primary broadcasting station that transmits your consciousness into the world around you. This revelation led Fox to understand why certain healing approaches failed, while others succeeded dramatically. Behind the scenes of what appears to be physical illness often lies electromagnetic chaos generated by a heart that's been forced to operate according to contradictory programming. The impact of this discovery became crystal clear through his work with Lorenzo de' Medici, a papal nobleman, whose erratic heartbeat was mystifying the most skilled physicians in Italy. Lorenzo's case demonstrated how living a double life creates literal electromagnetic interference in the cardiac muscle. By day, He functioned as a charitable benefactor, supporting sacred arts and helping the poor, causing his heart to generate the coherent electromagnetic patterns of divine love. By night, he transformed into a ruthless moneylender, destroying families with impossible loans, forcing his heart to pulse with the chaotic frequencies of greed and exploitation. The hidden truth Fox uncovered was that Lorenzo's heart was being torn apart by conflicting electromagnetic signals. His sacred altar was trying to celebrate two completely opposite masses simultaneously: the mass of divine compassion during daylight hours and the mass of predatory destruction after sunset. This electromagnetic war was literally fragmenting his cardiac muscle, creating the erratic rhythms that threatened his life. Your journey toward optimal health requires understanding that your heart is far more than a mechanical organ. It's the electromagnetic command center that determines the vibrational frequency of your entire existence. The decisions you make about how to live, what values to embody, and whether to maintain internal coherence directly influence the electromagnetic patterns your heart broadcasts throughout your body and into your environment. Lorenzo's transformation began when he realized that he couldn't continue being an altar divided against itself without destroying the very foundation of his life force. The mindset shift required choosing complete authenticity over social convenience, understanding that electromagnetic coherence demands living according to a single set of values, rather than switching between contradictory identities based on circumstances. Type "sacred coherence" in the comments if you're beginning to understand how your heart's electromagnetic integrity affects every aspect of your physical and spiritual well-being. Lorenzo's complete transformation came through what Fox developed as the sacred altar technique, a profound method for purifying the heart's electromagnetic field and restoring its function as the divine command center of your being. This wasn't simply about changing behavior. It was about fundamentally rewiring the electromagnetic patterns that determine how your heart broadcasts consciousness into reality. The process began with Lorenzo confessing every contradiction he had been living, not to another person, but directly to his own heart, as the sacred altar it was meant to be. He had to acknowledge each betrayal of his deeper values, each moment when he had forced his electromagnetic center to operate according to conflicting frequencies. This confession wasn't about guilt or shame. It was about clearing the interference patterns that had been fragmenting his cardiac coherence for years. Lorenzo then learned to consecrate his heart anew as a sacred altar, placing both hands over his chest and declaring with absolute authority, "Heart, sacred altar of my soul, I consecrate you as the temple of divine love. Let every beat be a prayer, every pulse a blessing, every rhythm a hymn of gratitude. I command you to vibrate only with unconditional love." The impact of this consecration was immediate. His erratic heartbeat began stabilizing as his electromagnetic field organized around a single, coherent intention. But the real transformation required establishing daily coherence through conscious breathing synchronized with his heartbeat. Lorenzo learned to breathe for 5 heartbeats, hold for 5 heartbeats, and exhale for 5 heartbeats, creating perfect electromagnetic harmony between his heart, brain, and nervous system. Behind the scenes of this simple practice, his entire energy field was reorganizing around the frequency of authentic self-expression rather than contradictory survival strategies. The journey toward complete authenticity meant Lorenzo had to make an irrevocable decision: either live completely according to his heart's noble impulses or abandon forever the activities that contradicted them. He chose coherence, releasing all the families from their debts, converting his lending house into a hospital for the poor, and dedicating his fortune to genuine charity. The mindset shift was complete, from divided altar to unified sacred center. But Fox's investigations revealed an even more fundamental principle about how consciousness interfaces with physical reality. He discovered that breathing functions as the divine bridge where soul and matter meet in perfect union. In each inhalation, the soul descends from heaven to kiss matter, while in each exhalation, matter rises to embrace spirit. This makes breath the sacred vehicle that transports vital force from the divine realms into every cell of your physical temple. The hidden truth is that most people breathe like surviving animals rather than conscious beings receiving divine nourishment. Your transformation depends on understanding that every breath is an opportunity to invite your soul to inhabit your body more completely, while offering your physical temple as a sacred vessel for spirit to express through. Comment: divine breath. If you're ready to transform your breathing from unconscious survival into conscious communion between heaven and earth. The profound power of this divine breath understanding became dramatically evident through Fox's work with a young peasant girl named Margarita, whose case would revolutionize his comprehension of how trauma severs the sacred connection between soul and body. After surviving a wolf attack that left her unable to speak or walk for 3 years, Margarita had been declared possessed by demons due to the violent convulsions that occurred whenever she attempted to breathe deeply. But Fox immediately recognized what others had missed. Margarita wasn't possessed by dark forces. She was disconnected from the most sacred force of all. The trauma had completely severed the divine bridge that allows soul to inhabit body through conscious breathing. Her spirit was wandering like an orphan in the subtle planes, unable to fully inhabit her physical temple because the breathing pathway that facilitates this sacred union had been shattered by shock. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be neurological damage was actually a spiritual disconnection. Problem: Margarita's shallow, terrified breathing patterns were barely keeping her alive, but couldn't support the full presence of her soul in her body. The impact of this understanding transformed Fox's approach because he realized that healing trauma often requires rebuilding the breathing bridge that connects spirit with matter. Fox began by teaching Margarita to breathe with him in synchronized rhythm, demonstrating how conscious breathing creates the pathway for soul to return home to body. He showed her that breathing isn't just mechanical gas exchange, it's the sacred technology that allows divine essence to animate physical form. The transformation started gradually as her convulsions diminished and peace returned to her face for the first time in 3 years. Over the following weeks, Fox taught Margarita what he called the 4 sacred breaths, essential techniques that every human being needs to maintain perfect connection between all aspects of their being. The grounding breath connects soul to physical body by directing air toward the base of the spine while visualizing golden roots extending into the earth. The elevation breath connects body to higher spiritual planes by carrying air to the crown while imagining light extending toward the stars. The expansion breath connects the heart with all existence by breathing as if embracing the entire universe, while the integration breath unites the 3 sacred centers, brain, heart, and belly, in one continuous circuit of divine energy. These weren't just breathing exercises, they were architectural blueprints for rebuilding the sacred geometry that trauma had destroyed in Margarita's energy system. The journey from disconnection to integration took 40 days, the time required for spirit to establish new patterns of habitation in physical form. Margarita's progress demonstrated that transformation happens when we address the fundamental issue, not just healing symptoms, but restoring the divine bridge that allows consciousness to fully inhabit and govern its physical temple. Her recovery revealed that most chronic conditions stem from some degree of soul-body disconnection caused by trauma, shock, or prolonged unconscious breathing patterns that gradually weaken the sacred bridge between realms. Write "sacred reunion" in the comments if you're beginning to understand how conscious breathing can heal the deepest disconnections and restore the divine union between spirit and matter. Margarita's complete restoration through sacred breathing revealed an even more profound truth that would become the cornerstone of Fox's most advanced healing work. As her soul reunited with her body through conscious breath, something extraordinary happened. She regained not just her voice, but a voice that carried healing power for others. Fox realized that the spoken word itself is the creative force that God used to manifest the universe, and this same divine power dwells in every human throat, waiting to be awakened and directed consciously. The hidden truth is that your throat contains the same creative technology that brought all existence into being. When you speak with full awareness of this power, your words don't just express thoughts, they become direct commands to the cellular intelligence that governs your physical reality. Behind the scenes of ordinary conversation lies an extraordinary creative mechanism that most people never learn to access consciously. This revelation led Fox to understand why some people could speak healing into existence, while others seemed powerless despite their best intentions. The difference wasn't in the words themselves, but in the level of soul authority backing those words. Your transformation depends on learning to speak from your deepest authentic center, rather than from surface personality or wishful thinking. The profound impact of this understanding became dramatically clear through Fox's work with Hans Zimmermann, a merchant who had lost his sight completely in a gunpowder explosion. Every eye specialist in the empire had declared his optical nerves permanently destroyed, but Fox could perceive something they had missed. Hans's soul eyes were actually brighter after the accident than before, as if the trauma had opened a deeper level of perception. Fox explained to Hans that his physical blindness was actually a disguised gift, because now he could learn to see with soul vision and speak with the authority of someone who wasn't distracted by material appearances. The journey toward restored sight required Hans to understand that his words possessed the power to command his cellular intelligence directly, but only when spoken from complete unity between soul, heart, and throat. The technique Fox taught wasn't complicated, but it required absolute precision and unwavering conviction. Hans learned to place his hands over his closed eyes, connect his throat with his heart and soul. Through conscious breathing, then pronounce specific declarations with such authority that every cell in his body heard them as direct orders from the Creator. The words Fox gave him were precise. I am the light that illuminates my own eyes. I command my optical nerves to regenerate completely. I decree my sight restored more perfect than before. But the real power wasn't in the words themselves. It was in Hans learning to speak them as if they were the first words ever spoken in creation, with the freshness and authority of divine command. The decisions he made about eliminating all contradictory language from his daily speech became crucial to his success. Share divine authority in the comments if you're ready to discover the creative power that lives in your own throat, waiting to be awakened and directed toward healing. Hans's remarkable recovery revealed the sophisticated mechanics behind what Fox discovered to be 3 distinct levels of word power that determine whether your speech creates transformation or remains powerless. Most people live their entire lives using what Fox called sleeping words, unconscious language that flows from habit, reaction, and social programming without any real authority behind it. These words carry no creative force because they originate from surface personality rather than soul essence. The second level consists of awakened words, spoken by those who have begun to understand the power of conscious language but haven't yet achieved complete unity between their inner authority and outer expression. These words possess enough force to influence emotions and thoughts, but lack the concentrated power needed to command matter directly. Many well-intentioned people remain stuck at this level, wondering why their affirmations and positive thinking produce limited results. But the third level represents what Fox called ignited words, language spoken from complete unification of soul, heart, and throat into a single instrument of divine authority. When Hans finally learned to speak from this integrated state, his words carried the same creative force that originally brought light into existence. The transformation wasn't gradual improvement. It was immediate cellular response to commands that could not be ignored. Behind the scenes of Hans's recovery, Fox developed what he called the regeneration decree technique, a precise method that allows anyone to access ignited word power for healing. The process requires placing hands directly on affected areas while consciously connecting your throat, heart, and soul through synchronized breathing until all 3 centers vibrate in perfect harmony. Only then can you pronounce the specific power words that command cellular regeneration. But the technique's success depends entirely on maintaining what Fox called perfect discipline in daily speech. Hans discovered that his regeneration decrees worked only when he eliminated every contradictory word from his vocabulary throughout the day. This meant never saying, "I can't see," "I'm blind," or "it's too dark." Instead, he constantly reinforced his cellular instructions by declaring, "My sight strengthens moment by moment, and I see more clearly each day. The hidden truth is that your cells are always listening to every word you speak, treating each statement as either support for your healing decrees or contradiction that weakens their effectiveness. The impact of this understanding means that transformation requires not just powerful moments of conscious decreeing, but consistent alignment between your formal practice and your casual conversation. Hans's journey from blindness to extraordinary vision demonstrated that the regeneration decree technique works by teaching your cellular intelligence to recognize and respond to your authentic soul authority rather than the confused, contradictory signals most people broadcast unconsciously. The mindset shift involves understanding that every word you speak is either programming health or disease, strength or weakness, possibility or limitation into your physical reality. The decisions you make about how to speak throughout each day determine whether your cells receive clear, life-affirming instructions or remain confused by mixed messages that prevent optimal function. Type ignited words in the comments if you're ready to discover how to unify your soul, heart, and throat into a single instrument of creative authority. Hans's mastery of ignited word power led Fox to discover an even more fundamental principle about healing that would revolutionize everything he thought he knew about the relationship between consciousness and physical health. Through his work with Isabelle de Montmorency, a French noblewoman whose mysterious illness defied every medical explanation, Fox uncovered that consciousness itself is the ultimate medicine, the only force capable of creating both disease and perfect health. Isabelle arrived at Fox's sanctuary, carrying what appeared to be 7 different diseases simultaneously. Her heart displayed the irregularities of an elderly woman, despite being only 28. Her liver showed inflammation typical of chronic alcoholism, though she'd never touched wine. Her lungs wheezed like a miner's, though she'd lived her entire life in pure countryside air. Medical authorities declared her condition demonic because no single person could harbor so many contradictory ailments. But Fox immediately perceived what others had missed. Isabelle wasn't suffering from 7 diseases. She was suffering from 7 personalities. Behind the scenes of her elegant exterior, she had fractured her consciousness into multiple contradictory identities, each living according to different beliefs, fears, and survival strategies. Her body, always obedient, had created a specific illness for each fragment of her divided self. The hidden truth Fox discovered was that Isabelle lived as 7, completely different people depending on circumstances. In court, she performed as the perfect lady, repressing every natural impulse. With her husband, she became the submissive wife, denying her superior intelligence. With her children, she played the sacrificing mother, abandoning her own needs. With servants, she hardened into the implacable mistress, cutting off her natural compassion. But the fragmentation went deeper. With secret lovers, she transformed into a passionate woman, betraying her core values. With priests, she acted as the devout penitent, feigning humility she didn't feel. With the poor, she performed as the compassionate benefactor, exhibiting charity that didn't flow from authentic feeling. Each personality created specific tension patterns in her energy field that her cellular intelligence faithfully manifested as corresponding physical symptoms. The impact of this revelation transformed Fox's understanding of healing completely. Disease wasn't attacking Isabelle from outside. It was being generated from inside by a consciousness so fragmented that her body couldn't maintain coherent health patterns. The journey toward wellness required not treating symptoms, but healing the fundamental fragmentation that was creating multiple contradictory instruction sets for her cellular intelligence. Isabelle's case demonstrated that your transformation depends on recognizing how many different versions of yourself you're trying to maintain simultaneously. The decisions you make about whether to live authentically or perform various social roles determine whether your consciousness provides clear, coherent instructions to your body or confuses it with contradictory demands that manifest as physical illness. The mindset shift involves understanding that most chronic conditions stem from consciousness fragmentation rather than external causes, and that healing requires integrating all aspects of yourself into one authentic, coherent identity. Comment. Unified consciousness. If you're beginning to see how fragmenting yourself into multiple personalities might be creating confusion and illness in your own body. Isabel's healing journey revealed what Fox called the unified consciousness medicine, a revolutionary approach that corrects the soul's incorrect decrees to the body by integrating all fragmented aspects of identity into one authentic truth. This wasn't traditional therapy or medical treatment. It was consciousness reconstruction that addressed the root cause of her multiple illnesses rather than managing symptoms. The transformation began when Isabel learned to identify and dialogue with each of her false personalities, thanking them for their protective service, while declaring she no longer needed these survival masks. She discovered that behind all her contradictory roles existed one essential self, the consciousness that had existed before creating any protective identities. Fox taught her to ask the fundamental questions. Who am I when I'm not trying to be anyone in particular? What do I feel when I'm not performing what others expect? What do I want when I'm not wanting what's socially acceptable? The impact of this integration was extraordinary. As Isabel's consciousness unified around her authentic core, her body began healing spontaneously. Her organs stopped receiving contradictory instructions and started functioning in harmony for the first time in decades. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be miraculous recovery was simply a woman who had learned to be one person instead of seven, giving her cellular intelligence clear, coherent directions instead of fragmented confusion. But Fox's most profound discovery about consciousness and healing came through his encounter with Sister Agatha, a Benedictine nun whose case would shatter every assumption about the body's nutritional requirements. When Fox was called to examine her after 40 days of complete fasting, he expected to find a woman near death. Instead, he discovered someone who had lost only 3 pounds while gaining luminous health and renewed youth that defied explanation. Sister Agatha had discovered what she called soul fasting, a technique that allows the body to feed directly from astral light rather than physical food. This wasn't starvation or religious penance, but conscious nutrition that bypassed material sustenance entirely. Her skin had acquired the silken texture of an 18-year-old. Her eyes blazed with crystalline clarity, and she radiated vitality that seemed impossible for someone who hadn't eaten in over a month. The hidden truth Agatha revealed was that every time you consume physical food, you're not just feeding your body, you're also absorbing the emotions, experiences, and vibrational patterns of everything you ingest. The cow that was slaughtered carried fear of death in its tissues. The wheat might have grown in soil watered with tears of oppressed farmers. Soul fasting creates sacred space in your interior where only energy in perfect harmony with your divine nature can enter. Your journey toward optimal health includes understanding that your body was originally designed to be sustained by divine light, rather than dependent on external substances. The decisions you make about conscious nutrition determine whether you remain trapped in survival-based eating or discover your capacity for direct spiritual nourishment. Write divine nutrition in the comments if you're ready to explore how your body might be capable of sustaining itself through sources beyond physical food. Sister Agatha's revelation about divine nutrition led Fox to understand the precise methodology behind what she called cosmic nutrition. This wasn't mystical theory but practical technique that anyone could learn to access the primordial source of all energy. The process involved creating sacred interior space where only vibrations in perfect harmony with your divine nature could enter, while directing conscious attention to the solar plexus, visualized as a golden sun radiating nutritive light throughout your entire system. Agatha explained that when physical hunger arose, instead of reaching for food, she would place her hands over her solar plexus and pronounce specific Latin phrases that acted as keys opening doorways between worlds. Spiritus meus corpus meo nutrit, my spirit nourishes my body, she would declare while visualizing this inner sun feeding every cell with liquid light. The transformation occurred not through willpower or deprivation, but through remembering that your body was originally designed to sustain itself through direct connection to the cosmic energy that pervades all existence. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be impossible survival was actually a woman who had discovered how to consciously access the same energy source that maintains planets in their orbits and causes flowers to bloom. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond nutrition. It reveals that your body possesses capabilities that modern thinking has completely forgotten, capacities that become available when you shift from survival consciousness to divine consciousness. But Fox's most extraordinary discovery about conscious regeneration came through his encounter with Master Cornelius van Bergen, a mysterious Flemish alchemist whose appearance challenged every assumption about aging and mortality. Though rumors claimed he had lived over a century, Cornelius appeared to be barely 30 years old, radiating vitality that suggested his body renewed itself continuously through some unknown process. When Cornelius finally appeared at Fox's sanctuary during a winter storm so intense it seemed to veil the boundary between worlds, he shared the secret that would revolutionize Fox's understanding of sleep and regeneration. Cornelius had mastered what he called the daily resurrection practice, the art of dying and being reborn each night, transforming sleep from unconscious rest into a sacrament of total regeneration. The hidden truth Cornelius revealed was that sleep isn't simply recovery time for your physical body. It's the moment when your soul liberates itself from matter's constraints and can perform the deepest work of healing and renewal. Most people sleep like animals, unconscious of the miraculous processes they could activate through conscious participation in their own nightly death and rebirth. The journey toward true regeneration requires understanding that every night offers the opportunity to dissolve your current physical patterns and reconstruct them according to perfect divine blueprints. The decisions you make about how to approach sleep determine whether you simply maintain existing limitations or access your capacity for continuous renewal and age reversal. Share Nightly Rebirth in the comments if you're ready to discover how sleep can become your most powerful tool for conscious regeneration and renewal. Cornelius revealed the precise technique behind this nightly regeneration through what he called the dissolution ritual, a practice he had learned from underground temples in Alexandria, where secret orders of Egyptian priests had preserved these mysteries for millennia. Each night before sleep, Cornelius would lie in perfect cross position with arms extended, forming the sacred geometry that connects earthly consciousness with divine realms. The transformation began with ancient Egyptian invocations that had been transmitted from master to disciple for over 3,000 years. Keper Ra, Keper Kepri, he would chant, with rhythmic cadence synchronized to his heartbeat, meaning, the becoming one becomes in all forms. These weren't empty words but vibrational keys that announced his intention to the cosmic forces governing death and rebirth processes. But the real power lay in the accompanying visualization that dissolved the boundary between consciousness and matter. Cornelius taught Fox to imagine his physical body gradually dissolving into golden light particles, beginning at the feet and ascending slowly toward the crown. Each cell, each tissue, each organ would disintegrate into pure light, ascending toward the heavens, allowing his soul to completely liberate itself from physical limitations. Behind the scenes of this conscious dissolution, something extraordinary occurred that challenged every assumption about the body's fixed nature. In this state of expanded awareness, Cornelius could access what he called the divine blueprints, the perfect patterns that exist in higher dimensions, showing how every organ should function without disease, aging, or the distortions accumulated through years of incorrect thinking. The hidden truth was that these perfect templates had always existed, waiting for conscious access. Your transformation depends on understanding that your current physical limitations aren't permanent features but temporary distortions that can be corrected when you learn to contemplate and reconstruct according to divine specifications. The reconstruction phase required what Cornelius called conscious creation orders, specific declarations that commanded the body to rebuild itself according to the perfect patterns rather than reproducing existing limitations. Corpus meum secundum perfectum exemplar renovatur, he would pronounce with absolute authority. My body renews itself according to the perfect pattern, All disease, all aging, all corruption is expelled from my temple. But this wasn't wishful thinking or positive affirmation. It was conscious participation in the same creative process that originally formed your body from divine intention. The decisions you make about whether to remain unconscious during sleep or actively participate in your nightly regeneration determine whether you simply maintain current patterns or access your capacity for continuous renewal. Fox discovered through personal practice that this technique produced measurable results within weeks. Facial lines disappeared, hair regained youthful color, energy levels increased dramatically, and overall vitality returned to levels he hadn't experienced in decades. Type "conscious creation" in the comments if you're ready to transform your sleep from passive rest into active participation in your own daily renewal and regeneration. The profound results Fox achieved through nightly reconstruction led him to understand that all previous techniques were merely preparation for what he discovered to be the supreme healing art, the alchemical marriage. This wasn't another method or practice, but the ultimate realization that within each person exists a sacred wedding waiting to be consummated between immortal spirit and obedient matter. Through his work with Isabella de' Medici, who arrived with her body devastated by what physicians called consumption of the soul, Fox recognized that the fundamental cause of all illness is the division between our spiritual and physical natures. Isabella lived in perpetual war with herself, her spirit yearning to ascend toward divine realms, while her body desperately clung to earthly existence. This internal conflict was literally tearing her apart at the cellular level. Behind the scenes of what appeared to be mysterious disease was actually a consciousness divided against itself, creating electromagnetic interference that manifested as physical breakdown. The hidden truth Fox discovered was that when Adam was formed from clay, that clay already contained divine spark. Illness arises only when we forget this original unity and begin living as fragmented beings rather than integrated temples where heaven and earth meet. The transformation occurred when Isabella learned to place one hand on her heart and another on her belly, declaring with absolute conviction, "I am the heaven that descends, and the earth that ascends. Within me, the sacred marriage of opposites is consummated." This wasn't visualization or affirmation. It was conscious restoration of the unity that had always existed, but had been forgotten through layers of conditioning that taught separation between spirit and matter. Your journey toward complete healing requires understanding that you're not a physical being seeking spiritual connection, nor a spiritual being trapped in physical form. You are the living altar, where these apparent opposites reveal their eternal unity. The decisions you make about whether to maintain this division or embrace your integrated nature determine whether you experience conflict and illness or harmony and vitality. But Fox's ultimate revelation transcended even the alchemical marriage, leading to what he called the eternal legacy, the recognition that true healing power doesn't lie in curing diseases, but in awakening consciousness to a startling truth. We were never actually sick, only asleep to our divine nature as immortal beings having temporary mortal experiences. The impact of this understanding revolutionizes everything, because it means you're not a limited human trying to become divine. You're an unlimited divine being who temporarily forgot your true identity. The mindset shift involves recognizing that every technique, every practice, every healing method is ultimately designed not to fix what's broken, but to remember what was never broken. This revelation transforms your entire relationship with health, illness, aging, and mortality, because it reveals these as temporary experiences within eternal consciousness rather than fundamental threats to your existence. Comment "never broken" if you're beginning to understand that healing might be more about remembering your true nature than fixing what appears damaged. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey into Fox's forbidden knowledge, you've just received something remarkable. Not just information, but actual keys to transformation that most people never discover in their entire lifetime. These aren't theoretical concepts we've explored together, but practical revelations that can fundamentally change how you relate to your own body, your health, and your consciousness. The fact that you're still here tells me you're someone who recognizes truth when you encounter it, someone ready to take responsibility for their own healing and awakening. That's exactly the kind of person I create these videos for. Those who aren't satisfied with surface-level answers, but want to understand the deeper mechanics of human potential. If this resonates with you, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel, because this is just the beginning. There are so many more hidden teachings, forgotten secrets, and practical techniques that can transform every aspect of your life. Each video I create is designed to give you tools that actually work, knowledge that creates real change, not just temporary inspiration. And if you made it all the way to the end of this exploration, write "Sacred Authority is Mine" in the comments. I want to connect with those who truly understand the power we've uncovered together. Your presence here isn't accidental, and neither is the timing of this knowledge reaching you. A simple like on this video helps this information reach others who are ready for it, creating a ripple effect of awakening that extends far beyond what we can imagine. There's a video right here that complements this topic perfectly, diving even deeper into the practical applications of conscious creation. Click and continue with me over there. Your transformation is just getting started, and I have so much more to share with you.